Hello and welcome to What We Are Watching. I'm Catherine.
I'm Liz.
And I'm Ed. And John.
Okay, so I will start off. I am watching 2 new shows. One of them I finished and one of them I'm almost finished. So the first one is Loot on Apple TV Plus. It's the Maya Rudolph comedy.
Oh, right. I saw
Definitely have
promos for that.
Got that one on my radar for sure.
Yeah, it's very, very, very funny. I love the premise. It's a woman who gets divorced and ends up with, I think, $80 billion.
Okay.
And then decides to really lean into philanthropy. Now, in this case, because obviously it's a comedy, we're not saying that the woman who actually did this, who I don't know why I'm like being weird and not like saying who it is, because we all know who it is. But anyway, yeah.
Well, this wasn't airing on Amazon, so.
Correct.
It was on Apple.
Yeah, I think they might have had a hard time selling this to Amazon.
Got it.
So anyway, she leans into philanthropy, partly because she realizes after she gets this divorce, very embarrassing sort of public divorce from her husband, played by Adam Scott, who is hysterical, from Parks and Rec and Party Down.
But actually, just the show you just watched on Apple as well, which was...
Severance, yeah. Which is very serious. So this is not that. He's not being serious. Well, I mean, he's being serious. He's being a real jerk, which is fun.
Been a serious jerk.
He's being a serious jerk. Anyway, so they get divorced right in the beginning, and she is a bit floundery, like can't figure out what she wants to do. They've been married for 20 years, and she's been living this billionaire lifestyle and kind of out of touch in a comedic way, and realizes that she has this philanthropic foundation, and she basically reintroduces herself as like, hi, I'm your boss. Maybe I should like be involved in things. And then it's the kind of a workplace comedy with those people, which is very fun.
So she's looking for purpose.
Yeah, kind of. So she's sitting on all this money and waltzes into this foundation and is kind of dumb and out of touch about what they're doing. And the cast is really fantastic. I'll just go through like everybody kind of. Okay, so we've got Maya Rudolph. That's our main character. Then the head of the foundation, who's kind of serious, like she's very serious about what she's doing in this foundation, is played by Michaela J. Rodriguez, who some people know from Pose.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing. I was very aware of her, but didn't watch Pose.
Oh, she was fantastic, and I did watch it.
She's great in this. Comedy in that she's like very kind of annoyed with Maya Rudolph's character trying to do this, but not really knowing what they're doing or how to be good at this or anything. It's a fun character. Then Joel Kim Buster, who is a comedian who Sarah, my daughter, was aware of him. He's very cool. He plays Maya Rudolph's character's like assistant. So he's a little bit from her billionaire lifestyle and wanting to hang on to that, and has a little bit of a hard time getting into this philanthropy thing. So that's very fun and hilarious. Then Ron Funches plays her cousin, who is working at this foundation. Her name is Molly. So, of course, she shows up and he's like, Cousin Molly, this is great that you're here. I mean, it is so fun. And she's like, oh, huh? Oh, so did I get you this job? He's like, yeah, this is great. And so he's amazing. I remember him from the superhero show with Vanessa Hudgens.
Powerless?
Yes, Powerless.
Okay.
Did you watch that, John?
I only saw a little bit of that with you. You did show me enough, but I mean, Ron Funches is just always so good that it kind of mixes together.
Yeah.
Even around that time, I saw him more on At Midnight.
Oh, okay. Well, look, Ron Funches, great. For some reason, Powerless really sticks in my mind. I mean, he was doing a lot of other comedy stuff and playing himself, showing up in different things as just Ron Funches being funny on like game shows or whatever.
Yeah, I know him from Nailed It, which is the cooking show. And he was on quite a few episodes as the guest judge, I think. And I really enjoyed him on that.
Yeah, he's great. So he's very fun in this, and a fun sort of spot that he's in, being her cousin, which is great. I will say my standout favorite is Nate Faxon. He is so great. He just recently was in our Flag Means Death playing the Swede. I don't even know if he had a character name. One of the pirates who was obviously Swedish and in the process of losing his teeth. And like, it was just a whole ridiculous whole thing that he was doing. But I love him. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just so great when he shows up and you're just like, and then in this, he's particularly wonderful and sweet. He's playing the Foundation's accountant or something equivalent to that. And it's very fun what he's doing.
He's also a writer and producer. I know.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Academy Award winner for The Descendants.
For The Descendants.
That's right.
Yeah. And also
which he wasn't even in. He just wrote it, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and
right.
then
with his partner Jim Rash.
Yes, I think they were nominated for The Way Back.
Well, yeah, that one was incredible. They co-wrote and co-directed.
Wow.
The Way Back.
Oh, The Way Back. I was dropping away. Anyway, on the way back. Okay. Love him. He's great, and he's great in this. So anyway, that's Loot. It's currently first season. All episodes available, 10. I did have to kind of wait because I started...
a half hour or an hour?
They're a half hour.
Okay.
Ish. It's on Apple TV Plus. So at first only a couple episodes were available. I think it only started being available like this month. So, but it took a little while because I had to wait for the last episode. But the last episode is now available. So it's the 10 full episodes. So there you go. That is Loot, Maya Rudolph's new show on Apple TV Plus.
Great.
So you're saying it's worth it.
It's worth it. So the other thing I'm watching is Sandman on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
So
Neil Gaiman.
So that's Neil Gaiman's new show.
It's getting a lot of heat.
A lot of attention.
Yes.
I mean, some people have weird reasons why they're annoyed with it because the property itself, the Sandman graphic novels, are beloved. This is funny because I didn't really follow them very well. Like I bought a box set years and years ago and I thought, well, that's it. I own the box set. It's done. No. The box set is 3 books which are 8 installments each
Of the Sandman story?
Yeah, of the Sandman comic book or, graphic novel.
Right.
But then I think it went on and forever. So this is only a sliver of how long it went on. Anyway, so Neil Gaiman, I believe, right in this era of when I became aware of the Sandman comics is when he also wrote Good Omens with Terry Pratchett.
I love Good Omens.
Right. So Good Omens then...
I think is coming back for another season.
Yeah, I'm not sure the timeline on that.
Neither am I, but I think it is coming back.
Very excited about it because it was really, really good. So Good Omens was sort of my...
entree point.
Yeah, I was going to say introduction, but it was really like that was my main thing that I first became aware of both Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. And then for Neil Gaiman, it was a lot of his short story anthologies that I kind of followed, and I didn't really get into the Sandman books, so I didn't really...
Would these be audiobooks?
Sandman, no. Sandman is... because it's a graphic novel, they wouldn't really do...
Okay, yeah, of course.
So I think that was partly why it was hard for me to digest that material because it's so intense visually. Plus there's reading, but there's a lot... It's a hard format for me. So even though I own them, I didn't really read them. I was like, I'm going to read those. Oh, I didn't do it. Okay. So
Is it all the same illustrator, though?
I don't know. That's interesting. I know that the beginning of it was a very important combination. Like
You know how we love Artemis Fowl?
Yeah.
So Artemis Fowl has the books, and then there's graphic novels that go with it. And there's clearly, for sure, at least 2 different illustrators. So I bought my son the book, and then we'll look at the graphic novel after the fact. And you're like, this is a different style. What is happening?
This is a pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of Sandman, and there's also quite a few artists.
Ah, that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
A few artists at least.
Okay, got it.
So I knew when it got announced that they were making this that I was going to be interested to watch it. And then finally it's available. It is 10 episodes. Obviously, this is the first season, and Netflix makes them all available at once. I'd say almost finished. I think I have 1 episode left.
They're an hour long, correct?
Yeah. So watching it with Eric, and he has been game to just like watch them straight through. So I'm surprised that we are as far along as we are already. Because normally we'll start and then we're like, oh, we got to pause. But he was like, yeah, we can watch like 2 of these today and 3 tomorrow. And like, oh, okay, we really are going through these quickly. It was interesting because as soon as we got through, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6, then of course I'm like, where are those graphic novels? I need to like look at those and see what we're dealing with and how close is this? Yeah, it was interesting to, I'm not an expert, and I'm sure there's lots of discourse out in the world about how close this adaptation is. I didn't realize that there was quite a bit of gore. So if you had to like put it in what category this is, it would be fantasy with gore or
okay.
It's not total horror, but every once in a while something gross happens. You're like, oh, that was surprisingly gory. Okay. Because, sometimes fantasy, it doesn't veer into that area.
Well, that might be an interesting kind of difference with his novels that are in kind of a different mode.
They don't, yeah.
Whereas I guess maybe some of his comic book work is in this.
Yeah. So, anyways, it was interesting to look back at this material and just
compare.
Yeah. And it does look like, at least at this point, from my, again, very not super educated about the Sandman whole run, but just this beginning thing, it does feel like, oh, they're doing an episode per
story.
Yeah, that's one of the things I don't want to admit this, but as a fellow huge Neil Gaiman fan, Sandman is something I have no experience of. I've been waiting. Partially, I don't know if I was really waiting for it to all be done, which maybe won't happen.
Are they still writing it and releasing it?
I'm reading it now. It's just there's just more and more. There's so many parts of it. It's crazy. I don't know what arcs, concepts, books. There's a lot of words to apply to these different avenues.
Okay, so I'm going to say that each installment is being treated like a separate episode. And some of them really do feel like, oh, this is completely different. Who are these people? What are we doing? Oh, this whole thing takes place in this one area. This next one is something, not an anthology. It's not that disconnected. It's definitely progressing the main story forward, but there's a lot of, different feelings to each episode. It was interesting to me because I didn't know that that's how it was going to kind of feel.
I'm looking forward to watching it. And I'm weight watching, because that's one I have to watch with Mark and Ethan, my husband and son. And I've realized, Netflix and Hulu, especially Netflix, really rats your ass out, because you could have your own account, but we just share an account, right? Mm-hmm. So the continued watching, I have got caught a few times like, why did you start that? I wanted to watch that. And I'm like, if we waited for everything that we wanted to watch together actually to do that, we would never get to it. So I just have to do it. I have to watch things.
Legitimately, there used to be the pre-version of this podcast is like one of our other podcasts. We were just talking about a family birthday. We used to get together for family birthdays and just riff on whatever shows we loved, we've been watching, and hadn't talked to each other about in a month. Catherine and I used to catch up on all the CW shows, and we'd be gone on the couch for a half an hour. No one could get into that conversation because no one watched those either. So partly it's now we're all on our own branches of we got to watch stuff. We're not really crossing over a lot. And then you got family slowing you down. That's tough.
Yeah, I know. Stephen King, I follow him on Twitter and some social media, and he was speaking very highly of the Sandman.
That's so interesting. There was one episode that I was like, ooh, this feels like a Stephen King, not novel, but short story that could have been turned into a movie. It was really, really interesting. But that was also like, oh, yeah, this does have a little bit of a horror thing happening. I don't think it's a problem necessarily for Ethan. It's not a level of horror that is, outside of his experience.
He'll say he's ready for anything. So,
well, there
really
you go.
Yeah, exactly.
The cast of Sandman has been really interesting. There's a lot of English people, some who I had never seen before and are great. I have been particularly enjoying the main guy, Tom Sturridge. I didn't know him from anything. He's really good. It's, it's a dark and kind of scary character. The main character, his name is Dream. He's the king of Dreamland or whatever. He's very good. Jenna Coleman.
Oh yeah, from Doctor Who, right?
From Doctor Who. It was funny because Eric, who did not watch much Doctor Who, which I watched quite a bit with Sarah, he was like, she looks familiar. And then I said, oh, well, she's from Doctor Who. And he was like, oh, yeah. And I thought, oh, I didn't realize you would know anybody from Doctor Who. But all right, cool. Gwendolyn Christie from Game of Thrones is in there, and she's great. Kirby Howell-Baptiste, who has been showing up everywhere. What?
Connecting everything, yes.
Yeah, she's been just so she was in Killing Eve. She was in The Good Place.
And Barry.
Oh, and Barry, right. She was in the
Barry.
acting class in Barry. I forgot about that. Just all over.
Yeah, her agent's happy.
It's not immediate, but another cast voice, I guess, that pops up is Patton Oswalt. That's very fun. And then there's this guy, Boyd Holbrook, who's playing a really gross character, the Corinthian. He's very good. Anyway, so that's my report on Sandman. Almost done and loving it. There you go.
What does Mark Hamill do in it? I love him.
Oh, that? I don't know.
Maybe it hasn't come up yet.
Maybe it hasn't come up yet.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Mark Hamill does have a gravelly voice. Could work for Sandman. No takers on sand and gravel. Gosh, you guys are slow.
Jeez. I didn't want to fall into that pit. Anyways, yeah, the cast is pretty impressive.
Apparently, I should have stuck with my initial thing about artists. It is not a few. It is a ton. Dave McKeon did work with him before Sandman. It seems like he did the covers.
For the graphic novels.
Yeah, well, they started as comic books, really,
okay.
or whatever, if accurate. But he did the cover, not the actual book.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to say because I might get in trouble, but I don't really know the difference between what is considered a comic book and what is a graphic novel, if it's like the length or, how it's presented, but whatever. Anyway, so...
I think it's the price.
It could be the price.
Legitimately. This one is in paperback, and it's only 3 pages, but it's $75. Well, that's a graphic novel. My sir.
Well, yeah, actually, probably comics is the format.
Look,
yeah,
Sandman is too big. They've done it all the ways.
All the ways, all the different things. Okay, so that's what I've been doing. Some other stuff because a couple things came back for their season 2s, but I'll hold on that and just say for now that's what I'm excited to talk about and what I'm watching. So there you go. Right. Who's next?
I'll jump in and go for the opposite end of the spectrum, from serious adult dark stuff to completely for kids, although obviously some fun and enjoyment on my site. It took about 3 or 4 episodes to totally get past the full cartoon measure of this. This is like legitimately a Y7 kids cartoon. Are you ready?
Oh, God.
It is called Super Giant Robot Brothers.
What?
I know.
What is that?
Super Giant Robot Brothers. How great of a nickname is that? Name is that, exactly. So that came to my attention from someone I'm following on TikTok who does pretty interesting art and music and stuff like that. And they had none of the art and music necessarily to do with this. They're more like a tech person. But I was like, oh, awesome. They're in a real project that's on Netflix. Let me check it out. And I saw one interview with that person, and she's like, oh, I did this really cool shader. And, I know enough about computers. I understand that a shader is a special code that you can apply to a 3D model that gives it like reactions and color and does stuff in an environment. And I saw that shader that she pointed out like 10 times. I saw it at least in every single episode. So it was really neat to see like, oh, I understand where that's coming from, because this isn't a traditional style animation. It was done all in Unreal Engine.
Unreal Engine, was that designed for computer games?
Gaming, yeah.
Okay.
And
Unreal the game.
Unreal the game. So, Super Giant Robot Brothers is on Netflix, and it's only 10 episodes. It's a sci-fi future robot battling kaijus from the standard trope that we all remember from Pacific Rim, I think was the big robot mech suits fighting, aliens from another planet. It's pretty much the same model as that.
Oh, and then also like Transformers.
Yeah, like that style robots and, battling something else from somewhere else.
I mean, kind of most importantly, Robot Jocks, but...
Yeah, exactly. Robot Jocks.
What's Robot Jocks?
Oh, that's a classic from...
1989. Classic. Hello.
It's one of the top tier giant robot fighting movies.
Young adult at that point, yeah. I was not watching that.
Well, who took me to it? Jeez.
I don't know. Maybe it was me.
So one of the fun parts about this is it's not just a straightforward, like, these robots are fighting, et cetera, et cetera. The premise of the show is, in the first episode, we jump forward in time and we discover that this little kid that's in charge of like these giant robots, and by little I mean like a 15-year-old, is the same as the kid from the earlier time, and it's that kid's parents that were building this robot, and they got sucked into the other side. And so this kid is basically taken over because the kid's super smart, but then that translates into the kind of nature of the initial robot. She kind of designed that one, and then that one got disappeared. Well, it comes back 10 years later, this giant red ball of a robot, and it is kind of goofy and kind of young as far as robots go. And the other robot, I don't remember any recognizable names as the voice talent, but the main little brother robot, the more technically advanced one, the newer one, sounds just like Stephen Colbert. So that was really fun to watch Stephen Colbert basically in a mech suit fighting kaiju for 10 episodes. So ultimately the entire series has a major cliffhanger at the end, so I fully hope that they're going to do another series because it was really fun, and I imagine it probably just took the longest time to write and create all of this, but now that it's created, usually 3D animation series, they get another shot because all your elements are done. The hardest part was creating the universe and the world, and that's over now. So shoot another one.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful for another season.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Did you watch Silicon Valley?
Yep.
So one of the voices is Chris Diamandopoulos.
Oh, yeah. 3 commas.
Oh, whoa.
That's the guy that plays Thunder, who's doing a kind of a voice of Stephen Colbert.
That's who I thought it might be, yeah.
Trace comas. Come on.
Trace Comas, sorry. Thank you.
He
The
was
tequila.
so
Oh, you know
fun
what? To bring
in
up the
Silicon Valley.
creator, because I recognize the name. I didn't watch this, but Victor Maldonado.
Oh, okay.
I was like, who is that? Why do I know that? And he did one of the Love and Robots that I really loved.
Oh.
There you go.
Which was, if I'm not mistaken, it's like Yogurt Takes Over.
When the Yogurt Took Over. And it looks like there's 3 episodes by him. 3 Robots, which is another really good one where they travel to the future and the
I
whole
love
society's
that
just
one.
gone and whatever. Yeah, so classically, I'm finding stuff that I really enjoy from people that already did stuff I really enjoy.
Yeah, so he actually then, if specifically remember those 2, but then they were really enjoyable in Love and Robots. So he must have a style,
His vibe.
his narrative. I would
Yeah.
enjoy. I don't know if I'm going to watch this one, but I Super Brother Robot Bad, whatever.
It was super fun. and
Super
I'm
giant
a grown
robot
up,
brothers.
and I'm telling you that at a certain point I realized, like most cartoons, there's something for me. It just was the first 2 or 3 episodes that wasn't,
yeah.
they couldn't really tie that on yet. And then they finally got the adult storyline going.
That level.
Yeah. So then I ended up waiting on the last 2 episodes. I'm like, it's going to be over. I'm not going to be able to watch it for another freaking year, Netflix. God, 10
Yeah.
episodes, 20-minute episodes, so fast.
It's hard. Sometimes you burn through it and you're like, ugh, no.
You
it's
didn't save or
over.
watch it.
I know. You got to save or watch sometimes.
Ethan just tried to get me to save or watch the last episode of the Umbrella Academy, and I was like, "No!" And we just powered through it.
All right, so I have one sad update because that's the end of my news about Supergiant Robot Brothers. Really enjoyed it. Recommend Netflix. All the episodes are available. Hoping for season 2. But I do have some bad news. I have finished watching all of So You Think You Can Dance.
Oh.
Are you for real?
Of course, I finished watching it.
Wait, where?
Well, it must have
Maybe
been.
you were-
So the
maybe you
season
weren't here
ended.
when I announced that I watched.
No, I was not.
But I did watch, and Essence did not make it. She had an injury, and the third she lost. She got 3rd place. So
Is that who you were hoping would
That's
win?
what I made my prediction for at the beginning of the season. And now, also when I announced that I was watching that,
Dealey.
yeah,
It was such a disappointment.
I also got caught up on Big Brother, and we're now down to just the jury. So everyone who's still on Big Brother is still going to be in Big Brother on the finale. Everybody before that, don't care. Don't need to mention them.
You're right.
Their story's over.
Wow.
All right.
So I'll give you
Okay.
an
When
update
you
on
say you watch all the episodes of Think You Can Dance, you mean from season 1?
No, I mean when I brought this up that I was watching this season, I said I'd taken a couple seasons off and on, but I've watched probably 10 out of the 17 seasons.
Which is quite a bit.
But we're also talking about when reality TV was that was 2-3 days a week. You're watching Survivor,
you
you're watching
could,
American
yeah.
Idol, you're watching so many of the main broadcast networks were doing prime time, and that's what you did during the summer.
I mean, I know there's a push to do more unscripted reality. I think it's so saturated, and I have fatigue from it. I'd rather watch scripted, and one of the ones I'll talk about, everything I watch was scripted. I will watch some reality, but I used to watch So You Think You Can Dance, and I think I just got burnt out. It's how much of the modern interpretive dance could I watch? And then it's of course you have a ballerina come in, or one of the judges absolutely loved someone could tap dance, and then it was that was how they then could take on other dance styles. But some of the winners, that's one of the things about American Idol, will say. I've stopped watching it years ago because, like I said, I just got fatigued out on all these. The competition, reality
in general,
format.
it has felt for the last decade, all of these reality shows are less about the premium, best actual performance and the person that should win, and now they're more about the ratings and keeping on air.
It's partly that it's all about the judges and the story of whoever it is, because they think that is compelling. So if you're into it because you think
they'll engage you.
Yeah, because you think this is going to be the best, most amazing performance, or best singers or dancers or whatever it is. It's often not really about that. And also, it's hard to reinvest every season. It's a whole new crop of people.
I think I got.
It's hard.
I said fatigued out about it.
Yeah.
And I will say that you look at most of these formats, and the winners or the success stories, except for American Idol, are not a lot. So you
And
get
even
invested
American-
and then you
yeah.
like never see these kids again, or you never see these people again. And you're like, so they just go back to their hometown and are working at the local hardware store? And the answer is possibly yes.
Yeah. For the amount of seasons and episodes and people that they've gone through, there are, on percentage, so few who have come out of it and been able to translate it into a successful career.
Right.
Which is kind of a downer.
Yeah, I mean, in general. But I was never going to be a dancer, so it's fine for me.
Oh, I thought that was going to be your side gig.
My dream 35 years ago was to become no, I had
No.
no dream.
I think it's very lucky that during my youth era, none of this stuff existed. I damn well know between me and some of my friends, we would have
you
auditioned
would've.
for American Idol. We would have had the balls to think we could audition for So You Think You Can Dance. I mean,
How
There
is
would
it-
be
in some ways-
amazing footage of you
Yes.
somewhere.
What was the classic old something with the word star in it? I cannot remember.
Star Search.
Star Search. Thank you. We clearly were aware that we weren't good enough for Star Search, but these other shows, man, they're not like Star Search.
Well,
Oh,
I don't know. I think they're incredibly similar to Star Search. We just didn't have any idea of like, how would you get to Star Search? They've made it more obvious how to just anyone show up at these auditions and have encouraged that because it's much more of an open cattle call where you feel like, you know, this is ridiculous, but like back in the day, the Star Search, it's like, how did they even find these people? The vibe was that they went out and found these people, not that these people just showed up at some audition and were like, no, I'm
Got
a
in a
comedian.
4-hour
I'm going to
line,
sing.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're not good enough for this commercial, but Star Search is calling.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ed. John, you want to go next?
Sure. Sadly, back to a slight horror example.
We're all over the place this episode.
Not me. I watched Prey on Hulu.
Nice.
Same here.
Very
Same
excited.
here.
Oh, stole it.
Stole your thunder.
I don't know. Well, Amber Mid-Thunder was amazing.
Yeah,
the lead actress.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
I mean, apparently I should know her from all kinds of things. I do remember her in the Ice Road, that Liam Neeson movie.
Sure.
She was this kind of like firecracker.
She was in that, the Ice Road where he's doing the 18-wheeler across the frozen lake and it's going to crack on him. It's just nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and there was this firecracker girl that you're like, she can't keep up. Oh, she's so good.
Boom.
And so that was her. So that's where I know her from.
Well, she fits in that pocket genre of like, don't underestimate me.
Well, yes, but I mean, look, don't, again, I'm not always the horror person, and I do make apparently numerous exceptions.
Wait, so this is horror? I was thinking it was going to be more like action, adventure, or like, no, but horror, you would say? I'm
said-
scared now because I wanted to watch it.
I said
How gross.
slight horror.
Okay, slight.
I don't.
I mean, all the Predator movies are slight horror. How are you going to have Arnold Schwarzenegger in a movie and not laugh at some stuff?
Well, I thought you were going to go a different direction, be like, and not just gut people. Like,
Well, look, Greg Nicotero would do it differently, but there is some gutting.
Okay.
But, they're not spraying blood across the camera, so you'll like that.
I do love things not going on the actual camera lens.
Separate from the gore aspect.
Yeah, separate from the gore.
Look, I do not have a Predator or Aliens exception. Except apparently that I do for the modern ones, except for the Alien versus Predator. I don't do those at all. Catherine, you are wrong. You should stop doing them. It's silly.
I really like that one where
Nope.
they're up in Alaska or
I know.
whatever. That one's so
Yeah.
good.
Forget
That's
about
a good
it.
one.
It's bad.
Alaska or the South Pole?
No,
Antarctica.
She's very focused on Alaska. We've talked
Good.
about this.
Okay.
It-
Oh, am I wrong?
Because the Antarctica one is a whole other level of what? There's an underground pyramid. Fine, it's great. Let's
That's
get into
the one
it.
I'm talking about. Is
Yeah.
that not Alaska?
I cannot say because I will not watch it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, whatever. Whichever one that one
all
is,
ties
Ed, that's,
into the
that's
Alien
the one.
franchise and that stupid company. And I want to know more.
I love that.
I just want a terrible.
so
I want the
terrible.
series of them remote running all the terrible movies and Predator events, like some dude in office going, "Oh my god,
That seems horrible.
we're not going back to that base."
Unless there's money to be made, then we will.
Oh, we do have to go back to that base.
Oh my God, John, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
All I would say is that apparently they're very into redoing the exact same thing because that's always,
yeah.
oh, wait, it's just a different predator in a situation that hunts people. Oh, wait a minute. We don't know what aliens are, and they're going to kill us exactly the same way every single time. Anyway, so I do make exceptions for the new movies that come out. I don't know why, except for Alien vs. Predator. Won't do those. But this one was so good. It was such, it was just not the same. It didn't feel kind of like a, just another movie in the franchise. This was like, oh, you're really, this is one of those rare things. There are only so many movies that are, kind of doing this.
They're saying it's a prequel.
Well, yeah, it's set in the 1700s.
Yep.
And, in that setting, doing, they're using the Comanche language sometimes.
Gorgeous. The cinematography and the direction was beautiful.
So good. Just the pacing, the direction.
Yes.
It was so good, so surprisingly good. I mean, if you watch the trailer, that is not what you're going to get.
And don't you feel like the beginning where they were laying out sort of like, obviously the gender roles of hunter and gatherers.
But they did not beat you over the head with it.
Right. I thought it was so well done of like what that culture looked like.
I didn't get it till the second time because I think pretty shortly your main character is kicked awake, which you don't even understand.
I know.
You see,
Wait, what?
You see part of her shoulder move, but you understand this all when you see it the second time. She's being kicked awake to like get moving, get helping, and then she's like, oh, okay, she's joining others, and then she's gathering. But you don't understand it's all females at this moment. So then when it happens again, you really are like, oh, someone just kicked her awake. It is pre-dawn. Only the females are getting woken up to go gather. That is what's happening.
And we were watching it, and Mark goes, ugh, my husband, he goes, that's how my dad used to wake me up every morning for school. I'm like, I don't know if you can really have that parallel, dude. You were going to school. You weren't going out like collecting berries.
It's possible.
One of the biggest stars in it.
Construction site or like fishing.
Oh, builder, but no.
Close.
John, I thought one of the stars in it was the dog.
I was not going to talk about that, but it was no. Just because I don't know the dog's name. I don't know what to say about it except that he was so fantastic. It was one of those great examples where it's like,
good dog.
it's it is obviously.
Sorry, I think Sorry or Siri.
It was funny. I didn't.
It could be Siri.
Yeah, it was. There was a moment in the movie where her brother is fantastic.
There's gorgeous people and gorgeous costumes and just wow.
Yeah, but I mean, just fantastic acting.
Yes,
The relationship between them, it worked so well. But this dog. So at one point, the sister and brother are going to separate to like accomplish multiple goals. She's like, I'll go get whatever, and you're like, what are you going to do? Apparently had not fully realized that was the name of the dog. She's going to go get the dog. That's her plan. Because the dog was currently a prisoner and she had to save it. And she was very important. The dog helped her with the
Smart.
bear.
I feel like it's
so much.
She would do like almost sign language to the dog. And I was like, got it. It was like, what is happening here?
Yeah, it was
Smart
a
dog.
highly trained dog. Yeah, they even had a joke. She was like, oh, easy to train. It's so smart. And then her mom was like, sometimes it's hard to train someone so smart. Like sort of as a like, you're like,
a little
I
bit of
can
a diss
barely
on her.
train
Yeah.
you. Which, whatever. But the dog, it was, I also love, sometimes you get interesting dogs in these kind of, prehistory type situations. And this was fun. It was like, kind of looked a little bit like a jackal, but it was obviously like, okay, you're not a wolf. I love it. And you're apparently going to be great. This is awesome. I totally love this dog. So I totally agree.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just, we watched it. Of course, I jumped and yelled quite a few times because in the Predator, a lot of it is they're hiding themselves. They're concealing themselves.
They're being invisible.
And those fucking assholes. I mean, here's the deal with Predators. I have a real bone to pick with this. First of all, you're going to go up against it's like the 1720s or something crazy. So you're dealing with guns come up at one point, but they do not have modern weapons like the Arnold Schwarzenegger ones that we saw or Alien. So I mean, the ingenuity that they had to have used to battle this alien predator was insane.
This jerk.
And he'd have all this advanced technology. And I was like, cheating. Freaking cheating, asshole. Cheating.
But here's the deal, and I can't speak to this, but apparently it was not the fully modern version of a predator. He was actually going slightly primitive.
Yeah. That's I had heard that the
slight
300 years back that they're giving the predators like, oh yeah, they don't have shoes. What? That's the limit? Come on.
I disagree. I feel like it can't be that because they traveled in a spaceship. You're choosing to sort of match your prey.
They're dialing it back on purpose a little bit. Like they're, like with one hand tied behind your back, kind of.
Yeah, except my other hand has 7 hands and it's invisible and I can jump from tree to tree, and I'm way stronger than you and still can do everything, but I don't have a gun.
It's not that fair.
It'd be really smart. And I will say, they did such a good job, the screenplay and story, I think Dan Trachtenberg and Patrick Asen, they worked together. There were a lot of parallels, and really watching what was the encroachment from both the Predator and now what is going to be modern man coming in and what they're introducing. So there were a couple elements that, she wasn't just battling, she was battling the position in her family and what she wanted to become. She did not want to be a gatherer. She had healing gifts, but she really wanted to be with her brothers as a hunter. And then the other elements of then being hunted and then the encroachment on their land. So really cool parallel stories, beautiful cinematography. I just said badass lead woman, carried the whole thing, the physicalization, the fights, just so impressive. And the dog, and just everybody brought in their A game. And I watched it as well and was going to highly recommend it on Hulu.
It's so good. Yeah, apparently he directed 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was fun, slightly more fun than Cloverfield. Also an episode of The Boys and even a Black Mirror. So he's got some talent, apparently, that director. It was great. It was
highly recommend it.
Shockingly good.
I don't know if you guys had heard this tidbit, because I've watched a couple interviews on that because I planned on watching it, hadn't gotten to it yet, that one of the actors in the story was talking about how they had thought about doing the entire movie in Comanche and subtitling it. Mm-hmm. And they mix it up so that it was partly in English and partly in Comanche.
Well, they did a version where it is all Comanche language.
Right.
So yeah, you can choose to listen to that through Hulu. Look, I've definitely enjoyed every version of when it's done well, it works. Whether they do all in a language you don't know, or they whatever. So this one, it worked very well. There was some Comanche that maybe wasn't clear, but whatever, you were following along, and then they used just English a lot of times when it was real, just normal conversation. You're in their world. And it was funny because then I think it was mostly French was kind of the trappers that were
French
encroaching.
trappers and voyagers,
When they came around, they're only speaking French, and so they don't know what they're saying. They don't give it to you either, unless of course you're cheating, like some of you people do.
I love subtitles.
But Comanche became English, and they kept French and these other things. It's like, oh well, you don't understand that because that's not your world. So
and it's very much their point of view, which they wouldn't understand.
Exactly. And so it worked extremely well.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. And that was one I watched as well.
This would have been great in the theater. It would have been fantastic.
It should have been in a theater.
But look, that's the way the world works now.
Right.
Sometimes these things are on streaming.
Yep. I think it would have done very well in the theater. It might have taken a little bit of... They would have had to push more of the Predator angle versus that this is a female-led action film by an actress that, is an Angela Jolie or Charlize Theron, not necessarily somebody we know. Because sometimes it feels like, she isn't well-known maybe to lead a movie, but the Predator franchise should have brought in people.
Yeah.
I feel like you're not wrong that it should have been in the theater, and that until we're in charge of a distribution wing of some theater like that, putting these things out, I don't think the story would have gotten through the way it did on a streaming service where there's no threat, there's no worry, there's no giant worldwide release that you have to worry about. Does it stay in the theaters for the full month? Did you get all your money back?
I think this is one of those just exceptional movies, and you didn't know it was going to be this good, and it turns out it was.
Yep. And the deal might have already been made. So, anything else, John?
No.
Okay, then I was also going to do Prey, but the other thing I watched, and I realized I kind of had a theme about badass women in the wilderness, basically, and how little I could survive this situation was the takeaway. I watched Keep Breathing on Netflix, and that is one for sure that if Mark got wind that I was watching it, he'd be like, what the hell? And actually, I felt bad. By episode 3 or 4, I'm like, I could have even watched this with Ethan. Oh, well. So it's 6 episodes. They fall in the 40-minute range. I think it only came out this week or last week, or maybe it's been around a little longer, but within this last month.
You didn't even give it a breath.
I didn't. The lead actress is stunningly gorgeous, Melissa Barrera Martinez. She's a Mexican actress and singer. She was relatively unknown to me.
Well, yeah, 2 things recently. Scream 5, which I didn't watch.
See,
but In the Heights.
Oh, I did see that. Okay,
yeah.
All right. I just didn't maybe recognize her from that. Wow. So good. It is a survival story. There's a plane crash, and basically how she has to survive. And
There's not soccer players on this one?
no.
Was that a Yellow Jackets reference?
No,
What?
Of course it was.
Yeah.
She's relatively on her own in the wilderness, in the Canadian wilderness. So rough. And just the skill set. And shout out to our sister Virginia, Gigi, because it was almost like they do flashbacks back and forth to her childhood. And she was kind of in a Girl Scout troop. And some of the skills she learned came back, and I was like, damn it, I'd be screwed.
I don't got those.
Yeah.
In your head, you're imagining yourself in this story going, oh, flashback to when I was in camp at Camp Maria Stella. Nope, no useful lessons learned there. All right, I'm dying.
Pretty much. It would be a real shit show. So cinematography, gorgeous, the background, but really she is such a good actress. She's so natural. The going back, she's a high power attorney in real life. This journey is basically put in motion by the death of her father to find her mother or to reconnect with her. And then there is a plane crash that strands her in the middle of the Canadian wilderness.
Yikes.
And what I thought was so well done was her current circumstances and then flashing back to really what was a childhood trauma, which pivoted her life. And you thought, okay, the resilience from that and the repercussions are what we're watching now. And it really was fascinating to see how even by herself, she was handling certain challenges because of that. And just her inner strength to persevere. And really, once the plane crashes, except for the flashbacks, she is solo. I thought it was so funny because it was like Castaway, Tom Hanks.
Oh, sure.
And, everybody's takeaway from Tom Hanks' Castaway was like, I'd be fucked. Like
I'm not pulling out my own tooth.
Exactly.
I don't
That
know
scene where he pulls
what's
out his own
happening.
tooth.
Well, let's see. I'm not the guy that knows all the details and the wind speed and stuff like that before I got on the plane. Like Tom, when he was testing people, I'm definitely going to die. I don't know how to make rope out of VHS tapes. I'm dying on this island.
There are moments, you're like, okay, Castaway, little maybe homages to it. But, you're stranded. You got to make do with everything you can find. So, okay, I get it. And I just think it's well worth watching. It's, like I said, Netflix. It's 6 episodes. I don't think there'll be another season because, let's not strand her again. But I have a feeling in the American market, this will be a real, she's so good, so gorgeous, so good at the physical that she would be amazing in I think she could lead a true action-packed type
cool.
of movie, but could also be part of an ensemble, whether it be like a Mission Impossible or something like that, or whatever is going to be the new James Bond.
Right.
She should be a Bond girl. I'm going to put it out now. I bet she would be a Bond girl because it's like the modern Bond girl is they're
smart,
fighters, sexy, and badasses. So I loved it. Highly recommend it. Keep Breathing on Netflix. And then I watched Prey like John. So it was 2 female-led. And I will say what I did love about Keep Breathing, all the episodes were directed by women.
Oh, love it.
One was
Love
Maggie
it.
Kiley and then Rebecca Rodriguez. And then the teleplays were mostly done by the same 2 guys, Brendan Gale and Martin Giro. But I love that every episode was directed by a woman. And like I said, highly recommend it. And I watched Prey, like John, highly recommend that. 2 female-led projects that were killer. Pun intended. And the one thing I want to circle back with to wrap up is basically because we're waiting to watch The Sandman and certain things as a family or whatever. We watched, myself and Ethan, Lightyear.
Oh.
And John, you covered that, right?
Yeah, what'd you think?
And I think because you gave me the heads up, because if you didn't, yes, they had something up on the screen that tells you this is the film about Lightyear that then the action figure was based on. So this isn't even real. In 1995, because we wrapped our heads around that, we actually loved it.
It's super fun.
And then the twist, I'm not going to give that away.
I
How
know,
dare you even mention there's a twist?
We got so close to it, but we didn't quite do it during the show.
No,
but yeah.
I'm not going to throw that away. And hey, we have a huge fans episode, and I did not know Taika Waititi, he does one of the voices,
Yeah.
and they kind of make him look a little like him too. He's great, and James Brolin, who I freaking love, he's in there. So voice wise and just the character wise, and knowing that what that turns into in Toy Story, you're like, okay, I get it. Ethan goes, there's no way this type of CGI existed in 1995, though.
Okay, whatever. But I mean, yeah. What do you feel about Bill Hader's cameo?
Oh my gosh. All of it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, Featheringham Stan.
Yeah, and I don't want to also, I feel like there were two twists that definitely affect the whole story narrative that I'm not going to blow here. But I do think, if you're a Toy Story fan, if you now understand what this movie is, it's very enjoyable. I loved it. There you go. I took your advice, John.
Nice. I did want to throw out, we did talk about this a couple episodes ago. I brought up that Bo Burnham has a new release of additional material from Bo Burnham's Inside called Inside Outtakes. For some reason, I thought it was only available on YouTube. It's completely available on Netflix. Of course
great.
it is. I don't know what, I was doing something and I was like, I just feel like watching something on Netflix and what can I watch? I'm like, I should watch Inside. Inside Outtakes is also here. How did I was completely wrong. Anyway, so I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. And second thing is, yes, Mark Hamill does do a voice in Sandman, and it's a pretty funny character. So
He
it's funny.
does tons of voice work.
Yeah.
Tons.
So Ed was right. It is his gravelly voice or whatever.
He's very good at the voice acting.
Yeah.
Catherine.
What? Oh.
Inside Outtakes was released on YouTube.
Oh, good. I'm not
And
completely
then
wrong.
later, about 2 months, it was put on Netflix.
There we go.
Okay.
Because I feel like when it first happened, I was like, I would have realized if it was on Netflix, but now it is currently available on Netflix. So maybe that's just a new thing that I didn't, and now it is. Okay.
Yeah,
Actually-
Netflix is just trying stuff out on YouTube first. See if people like it.
Early August, so very recent.
Oh, now I feel so much better. Honestly, I felt like I was so wrong and completely off.
You
and when
were-
I saw it there,
Fully admitting to our audience, a mea culpa. I've sent you down the wrong path. You could just watch it on Netflix. Oh, I was right.
Having had to read the name many times to confirm it is only the Inside Outtakes, it constantly says released on YouTube. So we knew you were right back then.
all right, well, whoosh, all right. But we've now even cleared it up further. And I still think go watch both of them, even if you've already watched them.
They're so good. Yeah.
They're so good. Oh, God. For some reason, watching just Bo Burnham Inside recently, just having it on, I forgot how
Genius.
but also heartbreaking because he's
Yes.
so vulnerable about how
Isolation
Yeah, it
and-
was very good. Very, very good. Okay, so anyway, back to recapping. I watched Sandman, which is on Netflix, and I also watched Loot, which is on Apple TV Plus, which is my Rudolph's comedy. Very fun.
And I watched a very serious animated series called Supergiant Robot Brothers. It's a very serious family story. And I also finished up watching So You Think You Can Dance, and I was ultimately almost right. I was very, very close.
Had she not gotten injured, maybe
She probably wouldn't have won anyways, but it's fine.
Got it.
Me. So yeah, Liz and I apparently separately watched Prey on Hulu.
Which
Yep.
is now for sure on my agenda.
Yes, Prey was on Hulu, and Keep Breathing on Netflix. Highly recommend both of them. And then I circled back and watched Lightyear on Disney Plus and loved that as well.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you for listening to what we are watching. And please follow us on all of our social media at Podcast Watching. We also have a Patreon, which I think we just put up an episode where we talked about some things that we did not particularly enjoy. And that's it for this episode of
What We're Watching.